Hello, welcome to SFLiberalBuzzE. I'm your host, Denise, Dorey, and we are very happy to hear that cannabis has been officially legalized in Uruguay. Congratulations, it's a step in the right direction. Now, let's see the rest of the world follow suit. Our guest today over the phone will be Patient Advocacy Network and organizer of the 2014 organizer of the 2014 efforts across California to repeal prohibition of cannabis and hemp. Dege spoke out on unfair permitting, which is kind of like Jim Crow laws, sort of, kind of. And you know how LA had a measure called Measure D, which was going to prohibit all dispensaries in Los Angeles, basically.
Well, all but a very few.
Actually, yes, all but a very few. So, anyway, we've got most, if not for her, 700 of those or so would have closed. Would have had to close their doors in the Southern California.
Well, it looks as though there's going to be a lot of struggles legally with the city. So the measure did pass, but it has a lot of constitutional problems, and it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to have the enforcement to close the collectives that don't deserve to be closed. It was a very manufactured consent.
Sort of just trying to take over the, see who they really want to be in charge as far as whose pockets are lined. And it's kind of a crony capitalism, sort of. Right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely crony capitalism, and it's definitely a coercive monopoly.
And the city of Los Angeles would be sued.
That is more than likely. When you unfairly close 700 small businesses and collectives, there's probably going to be some legal issues.
Which will cost the city money, and there will be jobs lost.
Thousands.
So, and some of those jobs are union jobs, actually, aren't they?
No, actually, the official union that is most recognized by lobbyists was lobbying for this. I don't know why a union would lobby for the loss of jobs with ASA, but they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been tweeting about ASA. I had a fascinating interview with Ross Margarini just 2 days, just last week.
Sheriff Margarini?
Yes, Sheriff Margarini, and he talked about the banks closing down dispensaries in San Francisco, and how they're just relocating. So then Avalos is going to expand the green zone to not prohibit as many places where people can open their dispensaries, or what's going on with that?
Well, so it's kind of hard to know what's going on with that because we haven't actually had a piece of legislation to read other than Avalos's proposal to have the Planning Commission analyze the fairness of how the land use was created in 2005. And that actually isn't a bad move. His first move was to try to ban clubs in his district and etc. And those were very uncaring moves by him. But the second move is a little bit more intellectually satisfying and a little bit more about public policy and fairness, which is to, really review what happened with land use in San Francisco. Because I don't know if you remember, but in 2005, right at the closing of the legislation, and it was, well, what happened was that different supervisors made political moves to chop out portions of their district, and they even would boast about it in campaign material, like, oh, I cut off this section of, south of Market, and I did this and this to prevent dispensaries from moving in. But now that we know that dispensaries have great track records, are regulated well by the city, it's time to look at what got closed off and what can be fairly opened up for folks. So if we play this right, if the small business owners and the caring business owners and the patient advocates approach City Hall right, we may have an expansion of the green zone. If we do this wrong, we could end up with a lot more restrictions, and we could end up with a lot less access for patients in the areas where we have no access, which would be the Sunset and Hunters Point, Bayview area, which are huge. You know, if you live in San Francisco, these are huge chunks of our city that have no access.
Yeah, it's a
Have
major,
you ever gone from the Sunset into the city? It's
a
so
major
long.
trip. It takes half the day.
It takes half the day, and God forbid, should you be in a wheelchair and have a streetcar pass you up, you might not get to your dispensary for another 2 hours.
I lived in Ocean View, which is down near Daly City Line, and I whenever I wanted to go to a dispensary, when Dennis Crone had his dispensary, I had to take the BART there.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with patient access, and I think we'll have to see if the city will take responsibility to look at it as a health issue and an access issue, and not just an issue of, you know, which business owners can get their lobbyists in there to cross out areas around them. I mean, that's a part of the issue too, is that the business lobby for a long time has been pushing to have the South of Market closed off and areas that would be good for their business kind of X'd off.
Well, one of the dispensary owners, who shall be unnamed, has threatened that he would be the only one left.
Yeah, that's never a pleasant way to approach a health issue, and I really think that some people that approach it in that sort of business-only manner need to work on the adult cafe license that we need in the city. We need to have adult use cafes in our, you know, touristy areas and our main stretches, you know. That's fine, and let the taxes help with compassionate care.
I've got a blurb here on my Twitter feed about the 1% big, I saw an article, I guess it was on Facebook, about 1% big cannabis lobby is fighting legalization. So.
Really? I haven't read that article.
You
gotta, I've been calling them the 1% big cannabis lobby for a long time. Never knew anybody else did out there in the real world.
Yeah, I tweeted that several days ago, and I picked up some followers, so it must have been good. So yeah,
I think it's a sad day when someone wants to etch out a corner, and that if you etch out that corner for your business, other people may suffer and go to jail.
Well, people often mistakenly think that pro-cannabis people are progressive.
Yeah, that's true. We do have a problem with that.
And that's why we fight amongst ourselves so much. I'm not going to say I'm fighting, because I'm just watching them, like, and with shock and horror, but then we have to, like, answer to this, so that's my way of doing it. So anyway, yeah, so we got a call.
I hope this is Dege.
It would be. Dege?
Yes.
Yay! Dege, thank you for joining us. Dege is an awesome lady that I've worked with for many years on patient policy. So we're just going to let you take a moment and tell us what's first on your mind.
Well, you know, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I was on standby on one of your previous programs where John Lee and Dave Hodges came on to talk about the 2014 legalization effort in California. And I know you made mention of me kind of giving an update on that, and I'd be more than happy to talk about that for a little bit. And then, of course, you also mentioned it, kind of give people an update on, you know, a little bit about what's going on here in Los Angeles, because we had an election here in May, and on our election ballot were 3 competing medical marijuana initiatives to try to regulate the collectives in the city.
Wow.
And the one that won was unfortunately the most restrictive of all of them, and the city, at least thus far, has not really taken a lot of energy or effort to try to implement it yet. And the problem that all 3 of the initiatives had here in Los Angeles is they were relying on 2 sets of data, one being this quote-unquote pre-ICO list, which is supposed to be the collectives in Los Angeles, that registered under a moratorium that expired a very long time ago. And then the other list was a lottery list, basically going to allow collectives to get a business license the way you would, try to win a lottery. And basically both of those
lists. How does that benefit the community to have a lottery? Like, hey, your lucky number is...
Right, exactly. And, to try to pick that way. But, and fortunately judges understand, where the city council here doesn't get it, the court does. And we've had different court cases where different judges have thrown out those lists. And that was kind of, for myself, that was the biggest flaw of all of these initiatives, is that they were relying on these lists as a criteria for who gets to get a permit in the future. And it's flawed legally. So we have what the big thing is here is, in addition to having those, those initiatives on the ballot, we also voted for a new mayor and a new city attorney. So I was down at City Hall today, just basically to poke my head in at the mayor's office and leave my business cards with his staff, let them know that, I'm still here, still very involved with the issue. Today, our new mayor and our new city attorney have been in office for 30 days now. They took office on July 1st, so I didn't want to show up there, right on July 1st, but I figured showing up 30 days after they're in office to kind of get a status checkup of what's going on down there.
So is this new city attorney anywhere near as conservative as your former city attorney? Because I remember that all of the collectives were kind of threatened by your former city attorney.
Yeah, our former city attorney, he was known as a bully on a lot of different issues, not just medical marijuana. And he, fortunately has been sent back to the private sector. Our new city attorney, he does not want to see the city being sued at every turn the way it was under the former city attorney. The way things were taking place here in Los Angeles with our previous ordinance that was deemed unconstitutional is a bunch of collectives sued. And, that's pretty much the way we have been dealing with medical marijuana, unfortunately, in the city of Los Angeles for...
Lawsuits towards the city?
Yeah, it has been since like 2007, when the city decided they were not going to give people fair hardship hearings when the feds started issuing DEA landlord threat letters. And it's just been like that ever since. And this new city attorney, he does not want his administration to be known for doing nothing but spending all their time and all their money going after the dispensary. So
you mean there's other problems in Los Angeles?
There's a few.
Okay.
I think we're fortunate in that I don't know how it's going to come together, but I think that this new administration in Los Angeles is going to want to deal with this in a different way. The one thing that was a little shaky for us here in Los Angeles is, while many of us understood that all three of these initiatives were not good initiatives, the problem was that the Riverside decision came down, which, gave municipalities this idea that they could ban, and then there became this concern that if one of those bad initiatives didn't pass, then it could be legally, it could be politically construed that the voters of Los Angeles would rather have a ban over an ordinance.
So there was a fear play.
So while the ordinance that we have on the books right now is illegal and incredibly flawed, it is at least something that the voters said, hey, we would rather have some regulated dispensaries than an all-out ban. So, like I said, I think in that respect we'll hopefully come to the table. I had inquired today whether or not there was a medical cannabis liaison in the mayor's office, and if not, why, and call me. So we'll see how that goes. as far as any follow-up with the conversation that you all had with John Lee and Dave Hodges last time, yeah, we're moving forward with a statewide voter initiative for cannabis here in the state of California. We think in light of the Riverside decision, we can't wait. We've got to make sure that we fix and mend some of the problems we've had with medical and move forward with the legalization of hemp and to create an adult recreational use tax market here in the state of California. It's time, and I just think that symbolically we need to keep moving forward to let people know that, you know, cannabis is safe, it's healthy, it's a good part of our environment, it's needed in our economy, and putting people in jail for cannabis is foolish. The governor of Illinois, he signed their medical marijuana law today. So, you know, we've got...
I wanted to ask you something about that. You know, I say I'm originally from Wisconsin, but my concern with the law that was passed in Illinois is that it prohibits patients from growing their own medicine. And I just want to be clear that the 2014 voter ballot initiative would not prohibit patients in California from growing their own medicine. Is that correct?
No, absolutely not. While it's nice to see different parts of the country, especially some places conservative as Illinois, move forward with, you know, cannabis is good, but yeah, the governor there is definitely saying that it would be, you know, one of the more restrictive laws in the country, which, you know, we don't need more restrictive laws in this country. When I got around the table with the people who've been working on the language of the California initiative, we wanted to make sure that people did not go to jail for cannabis. The only way you can get in any significant trouble for this is distributing to a minor, the business being tied to an international cartel. That's the only way you're going to get criminally in trouble for cannabis. The only other way you can get in trouble for it is if you don't pay tax on sales.
And
you know,
that's it. I have a question about the taxes, just to sort of clarify for everybody that's listening. How would the taxes work? Would everything be taxed? Would certain things be taxed?
At least the way we're looking at it, and again, this all comes down to, I think one of the things that was mentioned last week is this is an open source document. It is still online, it is still up, and people can still give input. Once we close that input, it's then going to an election lawyer and tax lawyers. So while we may have some ideas of how we want the taxes to work, we could potentially find out when we talk to a tax lawyer that we might not be able to achieve what we're trying to do without 2/3 majority vote. So what it will be finalized as far as what the tax structure will look like, I don't know at this point. But what we have discussed and are exploring is medical cannabis collectives that are operating under those specific provisions that we highlight of the Attorney General guidelines. Those collectives would be sales tax exempt.
So if you had a medical collective that was a true nonprofit and a true collective,
right,
the taxes would be released on those patients.
It would be those collectives would no longer be subject to sales tax.
That is a step forward. Now, would adult use, I'm assuming, would be taxed, and I'm actually for a tax on adult use, and I'm for a steep tax on adult use, so that it can be earmarked for some compassionate programs at hospices, for palliative care, you know.
Keep the money in the community. Keep the money in the community,
yeah, exactly, Denise. Keep the money in the community.
Yeah, and we're going to, that is one of the things we're exploring with, we need to explore with the tax lawyers is, and some of that comes from the idea of the way Measure Z was written in Oakland, which is their adult use, was saying, hey, when state law allows, we will, you know, tax and regulate adult recreational use, and the money will stay here in the community, and it will get used like this. So we're kind of saying the same thing, that the money will stay within the county where the adult recreational use takes place.
But the big thing is that we've got bathrooms